Here are some other great videos from Cabin Fever Entertainment.
Nashville goes international. Join host Charlie Daniels and country music's greatest stars in concert at exciting places around the world in a 59-minute home video from Cabin Fever Entertainment. From London, England, Emmylou Harris. B.J. Thomas and others. From Switzerland, Barbara Mandrell. And the Oak Ridge Boys.
Faded love and faded memories, how they linger in my...
From the Bahamas, Roy Clark.
You marry me, we could build a bamboo hut and raise a family.
And Mel Tillis. And from the good old USA, Merle Haggard. Lacey J. Dalton, Charlie Rich, Ronnie Millsap, and more. Join Cabin Fever Entertainment for some great country music from all over the world when Nashville goes international.
Good morning, America.
It's been called a gala tribute. Some refer to it as a great night of music. However it's described, it was some enchanted evening with Willie Nelson, a new home video from Cabin Fever Entertainment.
Some enchanted evening.
In a tribute to Willie's Stardust album, 400 of country music's elite were treated to a special debut performance of Willie's What a Wonderful World album. Willie covers standards like Some Enchanted Evening, Spanish Eyes, Twilight Time, Buttermilk Sky, Accentuate the Positive, South of the Border, and many, many more. Also included are some of Willie's classics like City of New Orleans, Pancho and Lefty, and others. Some Enchanted Evening with Willie Nelson, a great new home video from Cabin Fever Entertainment. Ask for Cabin Fever videos at all fine record and video stores.
15 restless riders, 3 conductors, and 25 sacks of mail.
We are young country.
He's Hank Williams Jr., entertainer of the generation.
Thank God I'm a guitar.
Now Cabin Fever Entertainment presents Hank Williams Jr., Full Access, a full-length film available on home video. We'll take you with us to Montana for an intimate visit to Hank's ranch.
I do a lot of fishing and I do a lot of hunting, and it makes me write a lot of songs and do a lot of shows.
Join us as we go hunting for wild game and come along on a cattle drive, Bo Cephas style. Best of all, the classic songs are all here too. It's all here in crystal clear stereo sound.
It's called Full Access, and what it means is full access to Hank Williams Jr. We're riding, we're roping, we're shooting, we're picking, we're singing, and we're living exactly like I live.
I went to Hollywood, met Elvis and Marilyn and Johnny B. Good. Got my guitar painted California sun. A red Cadillac having too much fun. Turn it up, huh?
It was like a homecoming. After 10 years, the Leonard Skinner Tribute Band took to the road to bring the legendary Skinner music back to the people. Join me, Charlie Daniels, as we relive the electrifying moments of this historic tour.
This is not a rock and roll tour, it's a circus.
You'll follow the tribute band every step of the way as Artemis Pyle, Billy Powell, Gary Rossington, Ed King, Leon Wilkerson, Randall Hall, and Johnny Van Zant take you along on their musical journey. From their humble beginnings in Jacksonville, Florida, to their meteoric rise to superstardom, it's all here. Life on the road, intimate glances into the personal lives of the band members, and lots of that bone-jarring Leonard Skinner sound. After 10 long years, the free bird flies again.
And you're listening to WSM Radio here in Nashville. This is Grant Turner bringing you the sounds of 1963. me greatly to announce that a plane bearing Patsy Cline has crashed in the area of Camden, Tennessee, and all aboard have perished. Patsy Cline is dead.
7 lonely days make one lonely week. 7 lonely nights make one lonely me. Ever since the time you told me we were through, 7 lonely days I cried and I cried for you. Oh, my
She was really proving to the world, and especially the world of country music, that a woman could close the show and that she could sell tickets and that she could sell records.
She could take a country song and sing it, and it would sell pop. It would be so good.
Her records stand up today. They sound like today's country records.
I'd heard a lot of people sing on record, but I never heard anyone sing with such emotion. I just felt like I could reach in and touch her.
She set patterns that will be followed and copied for as long as there is good country music. If they're going to do it good, they're going to have to get into the Patsy Cline way of singing it, because she couldn't be beat.
Before The Coal Miner's Daughter, and even before country music's change of heart about leading ladies, there was Patsy Cline. She remains the yardstick by which all female country singers are measured to this day. 25 years after Patsy's death, Loretta Lynn is still singing Patsy Cline.
After midnight, out in the moonlight, just like we used to do.
Patsy, I think, opened the door for all the girls.
She certainly did me. She really changed people's thoughts of what a female singer in country music has to be or can be. And I think people that didn't think they liked country music when they heard Patsy Cline went, wait a minute, that's country? I think I like country. I think that kind of thing was going on then.
Before Patsy, Nashville was the domain of the male. Female singers were seldom seen and usually forgotten. Yet, in a mere 5-year career, Patsy would carry country music all the way to the top of the American pop music charts. Born Virginia Hensley on September 8, 1932, Patsy grew up living, eating, and breathing country music in the sleepy, laid-back town of Winchester, Virginia. Clearly, Patsy possessed a natural, raw talent. In her heart, she knew she would make it to the top. It was simply a question of getting there. It was the era when radio was king. That's where the dream would begin.
I can remember walking right up to the window and pushing her nose right up to the glass and looking in, and finally one day she said she wanted to sing.
She was a diamond in the rough. I mean, somebody's got to begin somewhere, and frankly, at the very beginning, she wasn't all that great, and it took a few years.
It would, in fact, take a full decade and a full measure of determination. Patsy never missed an opportunity to get up on stage and feel the magic of an audience. But things were never too easy. Patsy's father had walked out, and at 15, she left school to help support her family. But she continued to develop her style by performing often 7 nights a week with a variety of local bands. By late 1953, Patsy had put together a demo tape, and in 1954, she was offered a recording deal by the independent label 4-Star Records. The terms were not particularly favorable for Patsy. She could only record songs written by 4-star writers, but Patsy had next to no choice. She was in no position to call the shots, not yet. Then came television.
It's town and country time.
To be invited to come to the Town and Country Jamboree in our nation's capital and be on television, and this was no small-time local show, this was a regional network. That was a big step up for her. It had like 4 or 5 hours of live telecast to it, and you could get a lot of exposure to, millions of people in that area that this television station covered.
Patsy quickly became one of the regular performers on the Jimmy Dean program. Show regular Dale Turner recalls Patsy's debut performance.
There was a stir one evening, and this girl came in a red and white cowgirl suit with a big white hat, and everybody began whispering and everything, and Patsy Cline, you know, and they called her up to sing, and she blew the place away.
During the week, Patsy continued to play roadhouses and local dances, where fate would bring her together with a flamboyant ladies' man named Charlie Dick.
And I went up and asked her to dance, and she said she couldn't dance while she was working. Well, so, you know, okay, so I walked off, and later on I seen her dancing with somebody. So I went back and asked her to dance again. She said, no, I can't dance while I'm working. I said, well, hell, I just seen you dancing with somebody. I said, that's my husband.
The pressures of performing during the week, plus weekends on the Jimmy Dean Show, soon resulted in Patsy's divorce from her first husband, Gerald Klein. Patsy soon would dance and romance with Charlie Dick, and he accompanied her to Nashville for the sessions that produced Walkin' After Midnight.
I go out walking after midnight, out in the moonlight, just like we used to do. I'm always walking after midnight.
Patsy would soon find national television exposure on Arthur Godfrey's Talent Scout Show.
On one Saturday night at the Dean Show, and there, I think this may have been Dale Turner, come running in the dressing room and said, everybody do their best tonight because Godfrey's home and he's watching. And he had a home about 35 miles out of Washington, in Leesburg. And strangely enough, the first of the following week, Patsy got the call and said, can you be in New York for such and such a date?
I remember when Patsy was on the Arthur Godfrey show, boy, that really set the woods on fire because that was a national network program. And once she won that and became such a favorite of Mr. Godfrey's, everybody was talking about her.
Walkin' After Midnight became an instant country hit, but more importantly, it jumped onto the pop charts. Patsy Cline had arrived.
I stopped to see a weeping willow crying on his pillow. Maybe he's crying for me. And as the skies turn gloomy, night winds whisper to me, I'm lonesome as I can be. I go out walking after
It was a dream come true when in February 1957, Patsy was a special guest star on the showcase of country music, the Grand Ole Opry. Patsy received a thunderous ovation before she even sang a word. But it would take 4 more years before Patsy could consolidate her newfound popularity.
She was in Nashville. I won't forget, she was down here, and she was staying at June Carter's house. And I came home one day and found some greetings from the President of the United States. They said he wanted my body in North Carolina.
6 long months after Charlie was drafted, he came home to Winchester for his marriage to Patsy on September 15, 1957. Patsy moved with Charlie to North Carolina, but returned to Winchester for the birth of their first child, Julie, on August 25, 1958, and to await Charlie's discharge from the Army.
When I got out of the Army, Patsy was getting an allotment check of $137 a month. Well, I got out a month early. And the first month after I got out, she still got the check. So we didn't think nothing about it. Thought maybe, you know, when we first started getting it, it started a month late or whatever, so we spent it. But then the next check came. So we ended up, including the one we spent, we had 7 checks. Well, after the first one, we didn't spend them because we knew damn well they weren't ours. And then when we decided we was going to move to Nashville, we ran to the bank and cashed all of them at one time and took off.
For Patsy, Nashville was now or never. Because of the substandard songs forced on her by 4-Star Records, the unfortunate timing of Charlie's Army hitch, and the birth of Julie, the climb back up the ladder would take all of her resources and talent. It was almost like starting over.
And the only work Patsy got then was occasionally she'd get a guest shot on the Opry. And you could do, I think she did a guest shot on Friday night and 2 shots on Saturday night. She might have got $25.
Enter the man who would become the second most influential person in Patsy's life, her new manager, Randy Hughes.
Randy was one of the nicer guys that you'll ever meet. Honest, straightforward, you know.
He had a lot of common sense when it came to promoting artists. Not only that, but there's a lot of people don't even realize that Randy played guitar behind Patsy and also behind me on the Opry. He put the bands together. He was one of those unusual type fellas back then that had a sixth sense about people becoming stars.
Tight financial circumstances forced Patsy out on the road, 2 and 3 weeks of one-nighters at a time, crisscrossing the countryside. It was grueling work, and sometimes the cash would disappear with shady promoters.
I vaguely remember a tour we worked where suddenly the money wasn't there anymore. And we all trying to figure out who's going to tell the people if we didn't get paid, we couldn't work. Patsy said, I'll tell them. I'll go tell them. And she did.
She was pretty salty, you know. She could lay a 4-letter word on you if you got in her way or gave her a hard time or upset her.
I remember Patsy so well that we'd be flying or riding or sitting in a restaurant eating or something, when she'd laugh. You know, if you was looking for her, you'd find what table she's at, you just start looking around the minute you'd hear her laugh, you know, because she laughed pretty loud, you know.
She'd be the type of person that she could say for 5, 6 guys sitting here, you know, she'd feel right at home sitting right down with them, have a beer with you and tell a joke. I mean, she wouldn't get offended. Matter of fact, sometimes she'd probably come up with a better joke than you did. That was Patsy. Full of life, I remember. I really do. A lot of fun.
By the end of the decade, the road work was paying off, and in January 1960, Patsy became a regular member of the Grand Ole Opry, agreeing to perform 26 weekends a year.
Patsy Cline loved the Grand Ole Opry, and she loved the people there. And I know she and I both have stood backstage and talked about, as we'd be waiting in the wings to go on to do our song, we would talk about that special spot in front of that mic, the center mic, the Hank Williams and the Red Foleys and all the people that had stood there, you know, and sang, and we would talk about that.
Of course, you know, the Grand Ole Opry is the epitome of country music, and we're all very much aware of that. But Patsy wanted to be a part of it, which she was. She wanted to be number one.
But to be number one, Patsy knew she had to wait out that 4-star contract.
Patsy had out Walking After Midnight, and she hadn't had anything since then that I would remember. And I think she was kind of laying low anyway with the label that she was with. She didn't want to record for him anymore.
At long last, Patsy was free to record any song she wanted when the 4-star deal expired in 1960. Her path soon crossed with Nashville songwriter Harlan Howard.
Hank Cochran and I were writing for the same publishing company, and he came by the house one day, and we were having coffee around breakfast time. He says, hey, I got this little song going, you know, and called I Fall to Pieces. He said, I only got a couple lines, but he said, I got a little melody started, and I think he sang me like, I fall to pieces each time I see you again. But I mean, that was about it. And I said, I like that.
We now were able to record anything that we felt was a good song. So that's what we started doing. And then we didn't have this, we had our own stack now. We didn't have anybody to blame it on. And that song that turned out to be Lucky was a song that had been turned down by about 5 or 6 people.
And he said, well, what do you think? And I said, oh, it's a good song. He said, it's a great song. I said, well, yeah, it is a great song. I said, but I really think it's a girl song, Owen. I just don't think it's a boy's song. And Owen got a little upset. He said, that's all right. He said, you just don't record it. He said, I'm going to record it with somebody, and it's the #1 record.
But I felt it was a good song, and I asked Patsy to do it.
It didn't take long to write, it didn't take long to record, and everybody's been loving it for 25 years now, and you say, wow.
I fall to pieces each time I see you again.
She used to invite me to come to her recording sessions, and I'd sit in the corner booth and eat French fries and whatever, and sit there very meekly and quietly and listen to Patsy sing. And she'd always say, well, Owen, how can I do it over? You know, she never seemed happy with what she had just done, and yet it was so fantastic.
We've never kissed. You want me to forget. Pretend we've never met.
When I Fall to Pieces was pressed, she got a call from Decca then that had gone into the charts. And Owen, the first thing Owen Bradley did, of course he's one of the finest anyway, the first thing he did as soon as Decca would let him do it was give Patsy an advance. And she came in that studio and she said, Ray, honey, and because I was the first one she saw, and then she looked around and she said, boys, they can't take that refrigerator now. They'll never get my car now. Says I paid cash for it and it's mine and I'm a-keeping it. And I said, well, where'd you get the money? She said, Owen gave it to me because, baby, I got a hit record.
This is my second record hit now, and I never thought I'd be able to get the first one, let alone the second one. Thanks to all you nice folks, you've made my I Fall to Pieces #1.
She wanted to see Hank Cochran and I. And she had personally gone out. It's the bracelets. Let me see. It says, to Harlan, thanks for the hit, Patsy. I thought, wow, this is nice. Singers give writers presents when they write them a hit. And I would like to state that 30 years later, this is the only present that any singer ever gave me except a great recording, you know. And now I know how special Patsy was.
Someone new, you walk by.
As the money started to flow, Patsy and Charlie were able to afford the down payment on a Nashville home.
That was back about the time we got the new recording contract. And I Fall to Pieces was just, I guess, just starting to happen. It was out, and Patsy was pregnant with Randy.
The night came for the baby to be born, and Charlie, he'd been out all night, having him a ball, I guess.
And I don't know, I got home, it might have been 6 o'clock. And went on in, no big deal, and I went on and went to bed. But then about 7 o'clock, maybe, I'm not sure about the times, but an hour, just very shortly after I got in bed, Patsy came in there trying to wake me up. Said she had to go to the hospital, having labor pains. I said, yeah, I said, in my mind, I was thinking she was just trying to get me up because she's mad because I've been out all night.
She said, Blair, come here. And so I went over to her, and she said, it's time for the baby. And I said, okay, here we go.
So I remember then one of the neighbors, the Blairs, being in the house. And I thought they had planned this together, you know, she'd get her to help me again. I still didn't get up.
Well, we took off to St. Thomas Hospital, and when we got to the entrance, what happened? My car stalled.
A little later, everything got real quiet. So I got up and looked around, and there wasn't nobody there. Everybody was gone.
They just rushed her right on upstairs.
They had gone to the hospital, so then I jumped in the car, and I had to go to the hospital.
Randy Dick was born on January 22nd, 1961. Patsy remained home with her young family for a few weeks before returning to the tour circuit. 2 months later, tragedy struck.
Her and her brother had gone to Madison to do grocery shopping. They were coming back across the old Hickory Boulevard, and just about the time they come by the Madison High School, some lady pulled out in the opposite direction to pass and hit him head on.
Two passengers in the other car were killed, and Patsy was rushed to Madison Hospital.
It was a gory mess, and bleeding and crush injury that looked almost hopeless at first glance.
They finally brought her out, and the doctor came over and talked to me. And he said he thought everything was going to be all right, but she had been cut very bad.
As well as a broken hip, fractured arm, multiple contusions, and a severe facial laceration.
It started just to the side of her right eyebrow, through the eyebrow, across the bridge of the nose, across the left eyebrow, then curved upward across her forehead and up into the top of her scalp.
I went to her bedside. She reached over and got my hand and she said, "Blair, Jesus has been in my room. He has taken my hand and told me that, no, not now. I have other things for you to do."
When Patsy got out of traction and was able to get out of bed, even though she couldn't walk, I'd get her in a wheelchair and we'd come out here and sit for, you know, an hour or whatever. I think we even come out here a couple times and ate lunch out here, and whatever, feed a squirrel.
During Patsy's recovery, Charlie brought a radio to the hospital to help her pass the long hours.
I Fall to Pieces, I sung it for Patsy, and I never met her. And that's the first time that I got to sing in Nashville. And it was on Ernest Tubb Record Shop, and Ernest let me sing. And I told him I would sing I Fall to Pieces, but I didn't know the song. And my husband held the songbook up, and I sang the song and dedicated it to Patsy, because they all told me that Patsy would be listening.
Moved by Loretta's thoughtfulness, Patsy asked Charlie to find Loretta.
She sent me down here to get Loretta and tell her she would like to meet with her. So I came down and went in behind the stage, and here was this girl in a little Western dress with a fringe on it and whatever. And I went up to her and told her that I was Charlie Dick. I said, "Are you Loretta Lynn?" She said, "Yes, I am." And I said, "Well, I'm Charlie Dick. I'm Patsy Cline's husband." And before I could tell her what I wanted or why I was here, she grabbed me around the neck, and I thought she was going to break my neck.
She got a little bit of sentimental about some things, and she started to cry, and you could see the tear come down out of this one eye. I never forgot that. And I think about that often.
In response to thousands of get well greetings, Patsy returned to the Opry in a wheelchair to express her deep appreciation.
They wheeled her out, and the crowd just went wild, absolutely went wild.
Thank you so very much. You're wonderful. I'll tell you one thing, the greatest gift I think that you folks could have given me was the encouragement that you gave me right at the very time when I needed you the most. You came through with the flyingest colors, and I just want to say that you'll just never know how happy you made this old country gal.
You know, they felt at the time, the fans all felt they lost her, and they didn't know whether she'd ever sing again. And having her back here, and then it wasn't but just about, I say 2 or 3 weeks that she was back on stage singing.
Singing better than ever, in fact, and even hanging out again with her friends in their favorite haunt, Tootsie's, the home away from home for Nashville's music people, a favorite spot where the beer always flowed and the music never stopped.
On just about all the Saturday nights at the Opry, back then, we used to come over to Tootsie's just about every Saturday night because it was so hot in the Opry. They didn't have any air conditioning. And the place was always jam-packed, and good excuse to go get a beer, you know.
Patsy would do her first song, then she'd come over to Tootsie's looking for us, and almost invariably she'd hang around, look for guys like myself and Willie Nelson and Hank Cochran, Justin Tubb. You'd almost always find her sitting with songwriters. She just dug songwriters.
And I came in here one evening on the way to work, one afternoon, and I stopped to get a beer and ran to Mount Tillis. And a record came on a jukebox, and I know we looked at one another, and you could see we both thought it was a good record, but we had no idea who it was. And so we asked Tootsie, and she said it was Hugh Nelson, and, well, we didn't know who Hugh Nelson was.
And I knew you'd love me as long as you wanted. And then someday you'd leave me for somebody new.
I came back in on Saturday night for the Opry, and Tootsie grabbed me and said, "Come upstairs, I want you to meet Hugh Nelson." And he just got in town, he didn't have a dime, and he was somebody buying him beer. And I told him how much I liked his record, and that's the record I took home and played all night, and almost cost him getting crazy recording because I kept Patsy up all night playing his record.
What in the world did I do? And I'm crazy for thinking that my love could hold you. I'm crazy for trying, and I'm crazy for trying, and I'm crazy for loving you.
Patsy did record Crazy, and it turned out to be one of her biggest hits. It also was the record that gave Willie his first big composing break in Nashville.
Crazy, I'm crazy for feeling so
When she
lonely.
recorded Crazy, I was there when she insisted on re-singing it time after time, like a whole afternoon.
And finally, we said, Patsy, there's no point in, you be abusing yourself. Don't try anymore. We'll just have to come back.
I don't think any other producer in Nashville could have handled Patsy the way Owen handled her. Owen was very explosive when he wanted to be to make a point, but Owen was also a diplomat, and he's beautiful in handling situations like that.
But in about 2 weeks, she came in, and she got it in one take.
From the down-home studios of Nashville to the skyscrapers of Manhattan and onto the world-famous stage of Carnegie Hall, the Grand Ole Opry brought classic country music to the Big Apple. Among the stars that historic night were Jim Reeves, Grandpa Jones, Minnie Pearl, Farron Young, Bill Monroe, and Patsy Cline.
Let's make her welcome here tonight, our favorite, Miss Patsy Cline.
Oh, I tell you, you're cutting up tonight. Doggies just sound like Pappy Wills on them git fiddles. Howdy, everybody. You having a good time?
Despite its triumph, New York was just one stop of so many for Patsy in the grinding performing season of '61 and '62.
There were no interstates. There were 2-lane roads. And I remember we used to have like 5 people plus a bass fiddle and a coupe de ville. It's crowded, That's the way you traveled back in those days.
I was on a tour out in the Western Canada in the early '60s with Jimmy Dean and Patsy. And of course, they were doing a lot of reminiscing, about the old days in Washington. And I was sitting in the middle in the back seat of a Cadillac limousine. Somebody else was driving. Joe Gaucher, I believe was his name, from Canada. And Jimmy was on one side of me and Patsy on the other, and they were passing this bottle back and forth and taking a few nips, and I was sitting in the middle, mostly trying to sleep because it was early in the morning, I remember. We were driving in a snowstorm, and Jimmy and Patsy had had a few drinks, and they got happier and happier, and then they got to crying and talking about the good old days, and suddenly they got mad because they realized I wasn't drinking with them. And Patsy turned to me and said, "Hey, Hoss, who do you think you are?" And I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "You're sitting there high and mighty like you some kind of saint, and we were having us a good time remembering the good old days, and you ain't even drinking with us." So I joined in, and we were passing the bottle back and forth. And needless to say, by the time we got to the town where we were supposed to do a matinee, it was a Sunday afternoon show. 3 of us were in rare form indeed.
By the early '60s, the private plane had begun to emerge as the easiest way to get from point A to point B.
I think it was Minnie Pearl's husband who had been a former airlines pilot. He had a little plane and everything. He's flying Minnie to all her show dates. So that kind of caught on, Roy Drusky and Jim Reeves and Patsy's manager, Randy Hughes, and it became a thing to send the band there, let them drive down those blue highways, but you fly there, and zip in there and boom, then zip back out.
I flew Randy Hughes over to St. Louis to pick up the plane that Patsy and them were in. And I've never forgotten that because the plane's number, when I saw it, it was 7,000 P, Papa. 7 3 zeros and a P, and I said, "Man, Randy," I said, "that's a lucky number on that airplane."
Patsy was hot. There were more cities, bigger venues, and longer lineups. Patsy came to rely on Randy Hughes to pilot his new plane from show to show, and back to Nashville, where she devoted more time to recording with the producer, Owen Bradley, and the support of the Jordanaires. In the studio, it seemed that Patsy could do no wrong.
I was down in the middle of the floor waxing a hardwood floor when I heard this record. And I said, Patsy's got her a smash. So when my husband come in that night, I said, Patsy Cline's new record is out and it's a smash.
I got a feeling called the blues, oh Lord, since my daddy said goodbye. I don't know what I'm gonna do. All I do is sit and cry. Oh Lord, that last long day he said goodbye. Well, Lord, I thought I would die. Hallelujah, he's got the kind of loving. But Lord, I love to hear when he calls me sweet baby.
Along with the satisfaction of creating hits, Patsy was a great believer in the simpler joys of family life. However, both Patsy and Charlie were strong-willed, and on occasion their personalities clashed, sometimes leading to volatile situations.
We did argue quite a bit, but it moved fast. It ended as fast as it started, and it was forgotten. We didn't go around carrying a chip on our shoulder. A stranger walked in the door and didn't know what was going on. They might think we were going after the shotguns or something like that.
It was sort of fun to watch, even when they'd get in a little argument, because you knew Patsy was going to win. I mean, House, she had pretty good control, and yet she really let Charlie be a man. And she really respected him that way, too. And he was her lover. He was her man.
With Patsy's continued success, she and Charlie were now in a position to buy the house of their dreams.
It was a little brick house, and she was so proud of it. And she had got her furniture and everything, and she says, "Come out here, Loretta." So I went out in the front yard with her, and she says, "Look at this, isn't this pretty?" I said, "It sure is, Patsy." She says, "Now I won't ever be happy till I have my mama one just like it."
We didn't go out, you know, and with a ton of money and say, okay, we're going to, somebody go in and decorate it and buy this and that. She did each room individually, picked out everything herself, and was able to pick out, and I don't mean, you know, real lavish or anything like that, but buy at least what she wanted to instead of having to take what she could afford. She had Julie's beautiful canopy bed, and I think something all little girls want when they were little. Patsy probably wanted one herself, never had one.
It was the big canopy with ballerinas on the curtains and the whole thing, the desk and the chest, and just really a little girl's room, totally.
And she thought in Randy's room, little boys should have bunk beds. And she put a tree in the living room. I thought that was a little weird at first, but it turned out pretty good.
She was so thrilled with getting the new house. Everything was wonderful. I mean, everything was going so fine.
You going to introduce me? Well, I guess you have. Patsy Cline, do you know Furlan Husky?
Hi, Furlan.
Hoss, you just been replaced. Oh, really?
Hi, Furlan. Come on in. Sit right down and make yourself at home. If I had one wish I could go back to my own neighborhood where the good folks, they all love you as their own.
She was a pioneer in that she used orchestras and vocal groups and strings, and she was an uptown country singer.
She set a precedence almost. It was like a female singer does not necessarily have to just be an opening act for some male act. I mean, she was definitely headline material.
Patsy was a stylist, and Patsy had the charisma. She had the magnetism that went with it that very few have.
I had this special feeling about this lady, knowing every time I heard her sing that I was listening to one of the greatest female voices I'd ever heard in my life.
Doing right, and the good Lord's bound to have them for his own. If I go back to hear them pray in the little pine church, they all would say, "Come on in and sit right down and make yourself at home." When I was a child of only 3, I said my prayers at my mother's knee, and I knew right then from God I'd never roam. When I get my summons on the judgment day, I hope I can hear my Savior say, "Come on in and sit right down and make yourself at home." Now come on in and sit right down and make yourself at home.
In 1962, Patsy became one of the first country-based acts to headline in Las Vegas. But the engagement got off to a somewhat shaky start.
Come time for rehearsal on opening day, and Patsy had no voice at all, could not sing a lick.
Due to the dry desert air, Patsy had developed Vegas throat and was unable to sing for the first 4 nights.
They set a record player on the side of the stage that was plugged into the sound system and put Patsy Cline records on, and she pantomimed her records for those first 2 or 3 days, whatever it was. And she never spoke a word. When she talked to the audience, she whispered. And on the 4th day or whatever, she came on stage and her voice was back. And of course, she was stunning. Her voice was so strong and powerful.
Tonight alone I'm thinking of the things we used to do. There's laughter all around.
Gordon Stoker recalls the Jordanaires' first sessions with Patsy.
I told her he was going to use a, good band with the Jordanaires behind her. She said, "Oh no, man, I've never had anything like this before. Even though I like those guys and respect the Jordanaires, I don't want 4 men covering me up." But then after the first session, she began to lean on us. She felt that we loved her. We loved to hear her sing. And she was really, cold chill bumps would come over your arms when she would sing. She was an inspiration to hear her sing.
She said things for people. There was so much feeling there. And in fact, she gave me a somewhat of, I call now a cliche that I will always keep. She said, "House, if you can't do it with feeling, don't."
Nobody ever replaces certain people. So I've stopped looking for another Patsy Cline because there's not going to be one.
Now someone else will hold you just the way I used to do. How can I face tomorrow when I know I'm losing you?
In 1962, Patsy turned 30. She was at the very pinnacle of her popularity, sweeping the music awards in 2 successive years. She was Female Vocalist of the Year and Star of the Year, headlining shows with the top stars of the day and selling out concerts from coast to coast. Yet somehow, in the midst of all this success and acclaim, she developed a strange sense of impending doom.
We sat and talked for quite some time, and she said, "Blair, if anything ever happens to me, will you go to my babies?" I said, "Patsy, what are you talking about?" She said, "I just wanted to know that. You know that I love you and Big Daddy, and I just feel like that you would do anything I asked you to do." I said, "Sure, Patsy, we'd be more than happy to do anything." But I said, "Honey, nothing's going to happen to you." And she said, "Well, I just wanted to make sure,
We were standing at the back of the old Ryman there, and as she was leaving, I can see her walking toward those steps going out of the back of the Ryman stage. And we said, "Patsy, be careful now." She turned and flipped up that collar of that coat, and she said, "Honey, I've had 2 bad ones already. The 3rd one will either be a charm or it'll kill me."
Patsy, Randy, and myself arrived back into Nashville, Cornelia Ford, about 8 or 8:30 Sunday morning, the 3rd. And we were coming back from Birmingham, where we had played shows on Saturday night. We did 3 shows down there. They had to add a show. There's still so many people left after the second show was over. And as I recall, we left immediately after the show, went to the motel, and then got a little sleep, 3 or 4 hours, and got up and flew back here, and came back here because I was getting off, and Hawkshaw and Copus were getting on. They weren't on a show in Birmingham, but they had agreed to go to the Kansas City show.
Because of her heavy schedule, Patsy was a last-minute addition to a special benefit for a Kansas City disc jockey who had been killed in a car accident.
We weren't here very long. We stopped, and I imagine Randy gassed up, and while we were over there talking a little bit, and they said they'd be back Monday, and they went on their way.
she was really at her best that day. I suppose that was probably one of the best performances I ever saw old Patsy. She was really happy. She had got that crowd really worked up, and she's right on top of the world with it.
She did close the show because she was the star. And I walked out and watched both shows, and I will never forget that white chiffon dress. She really, as I watched her, I thought, my God, she sings like an angel and she looks like one. She was just sitting there in this draped chiffon dress. She was just beautiful.
We did 3 shows, and after the third show that night, the radio station threw a little cocktail party for us at the Townhouse Motor Hotel there in Kansas City.
Hawkshaw Hawkins was in there, and I said, Hawk, I'm in a dilemma. I said, I've got to get back to Nashville as quick as I can. And he pulled this open airline ticket that I had given him previously, and he said, here, kid. He was about 2 inches taller than I was. Here, kid, you take this. He said, I'll fly back with Randy and them because I flew over with him and I trust him.
She almost rode back in the car with Bill and I rather than flying on the plane because Randy kept going to the phone and calling the Weather Bureau, and there was no clearance, I mean, for the plane. There were no flights. It was really a bad, foggy rain. And anyway, the last thing that I said to Patsy was, I'm really going to be worried about you flying in this weather. She said, don't worry about me, Hoss. When it's my time to go, it's my time.
After a frustrating wait Monday for the weather to break, Tuesday saw the party of 4 finally get off the ground. Because Randy was not an instrument-rated pilot and relied only on visual contact with the ground, he was unable to navigate through the dense storm clouds. Several times they had to land and wait for the storm front to proceed east ahead of them. Their last stop would be Dyersburg, Tennessee. Only 90 miles from home.
As they got out, I noticed they were very, very tired. And they mentioned that they'd been fighting the weather because we'd had 2 squall lines go through Dyersburg with some breaks and some sunshine and some open between the squall lines.
I became very worried, and about 3 or 4 times I had called Randy's house to see about him. And I called at 7 o'clock. And Kathy, she said, I just hung up the phone from Randy. He's in Dyersburg, and he said for me to go out to Cornelia Field and have them turn on the lights. And I said, thank God. I said, I have been extremely concerned all day about this, about them getting home.
He was on the telephone in the phone booth. And when he came out, he remarked to Patsy that he just talked to his wife and that the weather had cleared Nashville, they were getting some sunshine, that they could go on.
When I heard Randy had called his wife, or someone in Nashville, and that the sun was shining in Nashville, I realized that that couldn't be.
I told him that it had not cleared Nashville yet, that there was still, and you could look to the east and see the dark clouds and all.
So I took Randy down the hallway and outside between the airport building and the flight service station and pointed the bank of clouds out to him, which at this time was highlighted by the setting sun. And very, very plain. You could see it very well. And he decided that he would go as far as he could and come back if he couldn't get in.
Bill Braze was so certain Randy would return that he'd booked motel rooms and even had the airport car waiting to drive the group to Nashville. Somewhere over Camden, Tennessee, their small plane was swallowed by the storm. That dark, topless, bottomless void where there is no up and no down. The sweet dream was over.
Instead of having sweet dreams of